I think we're about to groove, according to the music. Thank you again for being here. Thank you again for hosting. I've gotten to know you a little bit over the past couple of years, and one of the things that I have most appreciated about you is the love and passion that you have for Brazil. So I want to take a little bit of time this afternoon and have you, as this remarkable ambassador to this incredible country, talk to us about what makes Brazil so special. So in your, however you choose to, tell us a bit more about why Brazil now, what's happening here in this country that is really sparking, we should be paying attention to.
So it's a pleasure to be here with you speaking about my country. For us Brazilians, and if you read the paper, we're always down and very frustrated about Brazil. And I think to some extent we have the reason to be, because we're like a student that can get into Wharton, but we're choosing not to do the homework to get into Wharton. And that's what really frustrates me. But at the same time, Brazil is a kid with enormous potential. And if you help it find it and help it develop it, the country will be great. So Brazil is a relevant recent country. I mean, we had our first institutions in 1808, immigrant society, but still very socially mobile, very friendly, big population. Brazil today is an agricultural powerhouse. Really, we're the largest exporter of soybeans, sugar, orange juice, corn, etc., 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 and this is just growing. 2, we are a mineral powerhouse. So in iron ore and in the new minerals that will be needed for energy transition, we can really help the world get what it needs. 3, we're an energy powerhouse. Clean energy and fossil fuel energy. So another huge expansion. Add to all this, and we are a 200 million people internal market. So there's a ton of opportunities. It's a very entrepreneurial society, socially mobile. When my father arrived in Brazil, he was 21. He did not speak Portuguese. And he only went to college after I was born.
Where did he come from? He immigrated from?
So, no, it's an interesting one. My father was born in the Middle East, in Haifa, when it was still Palestine. He grew up in Lebanon, and then he immigrated to Brazil when he was 21. So, it's only in a country like Brazil where you can have a family. My father lost his father when he was very young. So it was my grandmother, who did not know how to read and write, with 7 children, came here, and the country gave us all the opportunities. I attended the best school, or one of the best schools in Brazil. I had the privilege of studying abroad. I had the privilege of coming back and becoming an entrepreneur. And if we don't recognize that, if we don't see this, and if we Brazilians don't decide to fix our country, nobody's going to fix it for us. And at the same time, Brazil has all these problems, these issues, which create phenomenal business opportunities. Either there are issues for us to solve using technology and creativity, or they create markets where there are less competition. That's the truth. Many of the banking market, all the international banks that came to Brazil, most of them did not succeed because Brazil has all these idiosyncrasies, all these jabuticabas, as we say here, which make it quite unique. As a citizen, that's terrible. As a businessman, it's great. Since I don't create the rules, at least I'm going to benefit from them, right? So in that sense, I always like to look at the glass half full. In the last 30 years, since I joined Brazil, when I arrived in Brazil, my first day working was the launch of the Real Plan. Inflation the previous month had been 80% a month. Right? There was no capital markets. All that banks did was finance the government. So we had hyperinflation. We used to make the calculations 3 or 4 years after we stabilized how many weeks it would be until Brazil defaulted on external debt. And we would have a devaluation which might bring inflation back. Today, we're very concerned because inflation will not meet its target this year. It's going to be 3.9. Okay, it's an issue, yes, but come on, it's not a huge issue. We had a trade surplus of $100 billion last year, a current account deficit that's more than financed by FDI. We don't have an external deficit problem. The fiscal side, sincerely, all we need is competence and desire. We collect 30-something% of GDP in taxes. We spend much more than we should, and very inefficiently. If we just get a bit of good management and just some desire, we can become investment grade in 5 to 6 years. The real issue we have to address today is productivity. Our level of education is still embarrassing. Our infrastructure has improved, but it's still not what it needs to be. Our tax system is complex. Our public security is not what it should be. Our legal tax security is not what it should be. But these are issues that we all know and we talk about. So in that sense, I think at the same time, it's very frustrating for us Brazilians because I remember when I had kids, I said, my wife and I agreed, it's like, let's raise them because hopefully by the time they're adults, there will be nobody willing to work to clean the house for a minimum wage. Unfortunately, I think my great-grandkids will have people, if we continue with the same public educational policies we have today, that will be the case of all great-grandkids will have that. So this is where I think we are frustrated. But having said that, I think it's a country with great potential. It's a country with many opportunities. And I think it's up to us, Brazilians in the room, to try to take the country where we want.
So thank you for sharing some of that personal background. So I just want to let the audience know there's an opportunity. We're going to do Q&A with the audience in a few minutes. So if you have a question that you would like to ask of Roberto, please, I think there's a QR code somewhere, maybe on the back of your name tag or something. You can use that to send in an audience question. So be prepared. In about 10 or 15 minutes, we're going to get there. So I want to stick with Pactual for a minute. One of the things that I reflect on in Wharton's history, as we all know, it has the reputation of being the finance school. And I think part of why that legacy has been so important is because as finance was becoming such a prominent sector in the US, the Wharton School was becoming a prominent business school. And so the two sort of grew up together. And I want to talk to you because the changing landscape in the economic environment at Brazil was getting better at the same time that Pactual was growing. Mm-hmm. Is there a relationship there? How would you define the ecosystem that the bank was in, that BTG is in the context of Brazil's overall economic climate?
Completely. The last 30 years have been transformational. We actually now have quite deep capital markets in Brazil. If you are a water and sewage company and you win a concession, you can access local capital markets to raise bonds that are 10, 20, 30 years. This was unthinkable in the past. So you have long tenors, deep markets, equity markets. So the truth is, we have a lot of debt, 80% of GDP, not 80, 77 right now, debt to GDP of government debt. But that's all locally financed by local markets. So you have a sophisticated today, and this happened in the last 30 years, which we benefited from the growth of the asset management industry, from the depth in capital markets, from the credit as a percentage of GDP multiplied by 5 or 6 as they. When you have an economy that has 80% of inflation a month, it's dysfunctional. You cannot have capital markets, you cannot have credit. It's the energy for things that are not really generating value, is just preserving value that you use, are tremendous. So once we stabilized, the transformation that happened over the last 30 years is phenomenal. And what's, to me, is right now we have a government that was democratically elected, but has a very clear agenda that is, I want to spend, and I want to tax. I think this will shift in the next government. And it's going to be about, okay, I want to manage what I have to spend to make sure it's efficient. I want to not raise taxes, but I want to take Brazil towards an investment grade. When that happens, this country will be the darling of the world, because there will be so much unleashed potential, so much happening, that's the last step we need to take. We stabilized our external accounts, we stabilized inflation. Once we become fiscally responsible, and the good thing is, in the US, nobody talks about the fiscal situation. At some point in the next few years, they will. But the good thing is, in the US, you collect 20-25% in taxes, you raise taxes a bit, and that's okay. In Brazil, you cannot raise taxes. We're already here, so we're going to have to cut spending. But the good thing is that every day in the newspaper, we're discussing about it. So once we have these three pillars, we can then focus on productivity. And once we start focusing on productivity, then I really think we will have the social jump we need in the quality of life for the population. Because productivity gives better wages with controlled inflation, and you get to the virtuous cycle. Then you create a bigger consumer market. We all know how it works. So I'm very optimistic, because even though I'm quite frustrated with the economic agenda we currently have, we have a vintage of governors in Brazil and of new leaders on both sides, on the left and on the right. We see it in the finance minister. I don't know how many of you know the governor of Piauí. Probably not, but the guy is from PT. I met him the other day. Unbelievable, unbelievable, top talent, young, right values. So I think we have a vintage of new candidates coming that will get us away, hopefully, to make this breakthrough that we need as a country.
Yeah, excellent. So we know that Brazil is a high export country. Particularly, it leverages its natural resources. What factors do you believe have contributed to Brazil's success in this regard, being able to export some of the natural things that are doing here?
This is something that I think few people appreciate. Brazil is so successful in agricultural production, given research and innovation. I'm a small government guy, but this is actually one area of the country where there was a government agency called Embrapa, which is the agricultural regions research company, that did a phenomenal job, for example, for you to adjust the seeds so that Brazil could become more productive and grow crops in land that could not be grown before. And this is not, I'm not talking about tearing down the Amazon. Actually, if you tear down the Amazon, nothing grows there. So whenever you read that people are tearing down the Amazon to plant something, it's not true. Maybe you have some criminal activity of people tearing down the Amazon to try to raise cattle, but that's actually a very non-economic thing to do. People that do it, they're doing it not legally, and it's wrong. But when you talk about the Brazilian Midwest, you had great help from this research company, and two, you had the entrepreneurial spirit of the Brazilians that came into play. When you talk to these guys that work in the agricultural sector, they don't care about the policies, the politics, the macro. They're just going to do their business and grow. Whatever money they make, they buy more land and they continue growing. But if you go to one of these farms, you will be shocked by the level of technology there. We still have this old mindset that, they go there, everything is controlled by drones. All the machines are operated by very sophisticated drivers. And the people working there are actually making very decent incomes. And that's why you see this shift in the center-west of Brazil and the south of Brazil of voting more pro-business, more center-right, because they're exactly benefiting from this development. And I think the third thing that really benefited is that you have very low taxes in agriculture. So when you combine innovation, good management, and low taxes, that's what you get.
Love that. So forward-thinking leaders like yourself identify opportunities where others perceive challenges. And you've already described yourself as someone who thinks of life as glass half full. Can you elaborate on how Brazil has uniquely capitalized on large-scale environmental and energy opportunities?
Yes, I actually think this is a phenomenal opportunity. I think, first of all, we need to work on our marketing. We have the greenest electric energy matrix in the world. We have one of the greenest energy matrices in the world, period. We have half of our cars which run on alcohol, which is renewable. Not only that, but now there are many opportunities. I'm going to give 2 opportunities which we discussed and which I think exemplify this. We launched something in BTG Pactual called the reforestation strategy. We are already the 2nd largest timber asset manager in the world, and we always had commercial forestry. But then the team came up with this idea is, listen, we do commercial forestry. The laws in Brazil require that you keep natural forest and a big chunk of it. Why don't we do the following? We are going to buy degraded farmland. Half of it will do commercial forestry. 10% has to be legally original forest. We're going to take this 10 to 50%. We're going to reforest it with native plants. With that, we can sell the carbon credits and get an even better yield on the funds. And it's true because when you, I'm going to give an example, but to have cattle in 10 hectares, you need 2 people. To reforest 10 hectares, you need 20 people. So you give more jobs, you help biodiversity. So are these credits come with the extra credit and you sell them for more. And this product family that we launched has been a huge success. So you guys probably saw the Apple Watch commercial when they had the conversation with Mother Nature. And they were talking about how are they going to neutralize everything that went to doing the new Apple Watch. Apple is a big investor in our funds. Mm-hmm. And actually, when they said that they had reforestation projects in South and Latin America, what they meant is they were investing with us. And the good thing is, there's a ton of degraded pasture land in Brazil. So if we can keep getting the AUM, we will continue investing, and I think this will be productive. A second thing is people always talk about green hydrogen. The technology is not there yet, but let's talk about data centers. Demand will explode. But if you go to West Virginia, they're burning coal like there's no tomorrow to power up the data centers. Well, Brazil, we can do renewable energy data centers. Mm. We're going to export energy, not via green hydrogen, but via data. To teach the AI models, I don't know where Eric is, you don't need latency. You can send the information, teach the models, and send it back. We can process that for you guys with clean energy, right? So I think if we use our creativity, there are many opportunities for us to explore in Brazil.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard, Wharton is making a major push into the world of artificial intelligence as it relates to business and the application of that technology. What is the application of artificial intelligence as you're seeing it at BTG?
My paranoia was, first of all, not to be behind competition. And this is the problem. The AI major did not exist when I studied, so I know nothing about it. So like Marco said, we come at a competitive disadvantage because we're not tech guys. So we were obsessed with how can we not fall behind competition. So I bugged our engineers so much that they have this phenomenal team of data engineers, data scientists, data analysts, and the artificial intelligence team which runs all the models. I said, oh, great, so now I'm relaxed because now we have the team. And I said, but please show me now who's using it. Performance marketing, banking, retail investments, compliance, and fraud. I said, that's it? Yeah, the other guys don't know how to use it. So then it was another year becoming a preacher of showing to the businesses the capabilities that we had, that they had to explore, because you can have the technical team. But what I love about what I saw about the Wharton's presentation yesterday is that we need to teach the business people the potential of how to use that. And that's exactly the process we've been growing through. And it is mind-boggling, the results. The results in terms of customer satisfaction, of the quality of the service, and sincerity of the gains in efficiency. It's even scary. And what scares me is, had we not done this, and the competition did it, we would be in a tough place.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's here to stay.
No doubt. It's going to be like using the internet. If you don't use it.
Yeah, of course. So I want to bring the conversation back to education. Last year I came to visit São Paulo. I spent quite a bit of time with you, and you were kind enough to take me on a tour of a place that's very special to you, an educational institution that you founded called Intelli. Tell us a bit more about what Intelli is and why it is so important for you.
So Intelli is our legacy to Brazil, right? It's our thank you. In the US, you guys sometimes don't appreciate it, but someday somebody founded UPenn, Wharton, Harvard, MIT, Stanford. Somebody started it, made it grow, and these institutions became of the society. It's exactly the same thing we want to do with Intelli. I always tell people the day that we will have succeeded is the day we're just a plaque with founders, and that Intelli is adopted by society, and the former students, society in general, helps the school thrive. What is Intelli? When we were in our digitalization process at BTG, twice we went to Silicon Valley all the time to learn. And a few times we went there, and one of the biggest VC investors in the world told us, I don't invest in Brazil because you guys don't have enough engineers. The second time or third time we heard this, I told Andre, my partner, I said, you know what, this guy's right. Let's do something about it. And then let's do something about it has many meanings, right? It could be coding courses, basic courses, post-grads, but after studying it for 3 years, we reached the conclusion that the highest impact we could have was to found an undergraduate engineering university which would teach not only technology, engineering, but also business. We would have engineers that understood valuation, understood accounting, understood management, understood performance marketing, and leadership. They would know how to communicate, how to collaborate, how to have critical thinking, how to develop themselves. So our objective is to form the leaders that will transform Brazil through technology. And we spent 3 years building this out, planning it. We launched, surprisingly, right after the pandemic. We did not have a campus, we did not have a history, we had 10 candidates per slot. I probably did 60 lives or 70 lives to try to convince students to come. And to my shock, I'm walking there the first day of classes, and all these kids are like, hey, my dad says hi. My dad says hi. I'm like, who's your dad? Oh, a client. Who's your dad? He works in I said, oh my God, we have a reputation. Now we cannot really screw it up, right? Because all these friends are giving us their kids' education in our hands. And it's been phenomenal, because what we did is, like Wharton, for you to have the former students will to transform a country, you need to have the best students. So we did something that in Brazil is not very common. We created a policy that if you get in the first admissions list, not the second or third, and your family cannot afford it, we're going to give you a scholarship. And this has been amazing, because the truth is, in Brazil, talent is not badly distributed. Opportunity is badly distributed. And when we started giving an opportunity through the scholarship program and through a process which did not judge if you just had the money to pay for the cursinho, but judged your potential, distance traveled, your resilience, if you had the basic logic and math skills, of course, but it judged also you as a member of a team, your collaboration, critical thinking. All that came together, and today we have roughly 50% of the students with full scholarships. 50% are the kids, 50% of the students are the kids of my friends, And it's phenomenal. No, but it's a melting pot that's been great. And I'm really excited that the KPIs of engagement, of learning, the feedbacks from the summer, from the internships have been phenomenal. We already have 3 startups at the college. I really think, I've been at BTG for 30 years. It's our 40th anniversary. We're at the best time ever as a company. But I always tell people that what really makes me, there's a word in Portuguese called realizado, which really makes my day, makes me full, is Intelli. It's really, I'm really proud of it.
And I'm sorry, what grade did it start? It starts at what grade?
It's undergraduate, it's
college.
College.
9 through 12. Thank you. I could talk to you for hours, but I know that there are many people who have questions, and I want to give them an opportunity. And there are a number of questions here. Let me start with one about Brazil and the economy. What challenges do you think an increasingly polarized world will pose to Brazil and the economy here?
We are living that, right? We're not discussing the merit of things, we're discussing who presented things. And this is quite frustrating because there are things that are just common sense. And sometimes common sense is not prevailing. So I think it does help. I think social media, recent events have not helped. But this is what I'm very optimistic with this new vintage of governors. There are a lot of common sense center people that can talk, right? We had a panel at our event in New York, and you had governors from the left, from the right. You could not tell almost who's who. It was just people with common sense talking about how to better the lives of their populations and of their states. So, yes, I think we're doing that, and I think that, unfortunately, the reaction function for the loss of popularity that we will see that I think we will see over the next few months will be to probably radicalize, but I think we're in the last chapter of that because I'm quite constructive for the next chapter of the Brazilian story.
This question is going to actually pick up on exactly where you left off, and the author of the question says, what can we as Brazilian Wharton grads do about changing and improving the world?
So, I'm going to use what a previous Wharton dean told me, Dean Garrett. When he invited me to join the board, I'm like, I'm very honored, but what do you expect from me? Well, I want from you the 3 W's. I said, what are the 3 W's? Work, wisdom, and wealth. The truth is, we can all contribute in different ways. And in different points of our lives, we have more money, more time, more experience. Very rarely do we have the 3. I actually regret that I only started giving back to Brazil after 2006 when I had some resources. And the same thing with Wharton. Now I realized I could have, before that, I didn't have a family. I had more time available, less than when I started having kids. So I could have donated more work. There's a middle of your life, in your 30s or 40s, where you don't have time and you don't have money, but you have some experience. And then you can donate a bit of work and a bit of your knowledge, of your wisdom. And then when you reach a certain point where you have the money, then you can give back in money. But what I've found out is that when you find a project where you can donate all that you've learned, put a few hours in the week, and put the resources, the impact it creates, and I see this at Intelli, is enormous. But it's not the impact. The pleasure it gives you is phenomenal. So if any of you, if you want to give work into politics, what we cannot, my generation failed Brazil because we thought all politicians were corrupt and we did not want to get involved. We might not want to run for elections, but we need to get involved with the politicians. So there's an institution, which I'm a proud board member here, called Parceiros Educação. Our objective is to improve the public education of São Paulo. The governments change, the secretaries of education change, but we're up their noses telling them what works, what doesn't work, what they cannot stop, what they need to continue, because if they stop and the students suffer, we will yell. So it's these types of things. I think each of you have to figure out how you can help, but I think we all have to do something, because we cannot expect somebody else to do it. We have to do it. We have the connections, we have the reputation, we should use it. We should use it. If we don't want to run, we should try to influence and help and make sure that we're taking the right decisions that benefit the country as a whole.
Yeah, thank you. There's a question here about BTG's international expansion and your experience with dealing with different cultures in Latin America, and can you comment on what's the next challenge for the institution?
Dealing with different cultures in Latin America has been interesting, and here Wharton helped me a lot, because I got to know all the different Latin American cultures at Wharton. I actually got to learn even the different accents in Spanish. And I remember I would go to meetings, and when we bought a bank in Colombia or in Chile or Peru, and they're like, oh, you speak Spanish, but I can't identify your accent. I said, yes, because I'm mixing them all up. But you have to understand that every country is a different country. We always have a local management team that is really local. If they have our values, that's what matters. And every country that we have business, your values will be expressed in a different way. Mm-hmm. As long as you understand that, I think you can be quite successful. And I think we've been. Right now, we are expanding. Unfortunately, there's a desire from all Latin Americans to have between 10 and 50% of their portfolios invested in the US and in Europe. And the truth is, given all the compliance standards and the policies, I understand that the global banks have a hard time dealing with the Latins because they don't really have the relationship. Mm-hmm. So we're expanding our operations in both the US and in Europe to try to serve our Latin clients better as they try to globalize their portfolios.
Okay. So I have a question here. Let's see, in which area of the bank do you spend most of your focus and time, and why? And how has this changed over the last decade? It's a great question.
The one that has the problem, the most urgent one. So it's people, strategy, and execution, right? So making sure you have the right people, making sure you have the strategy, and then every time your strategy will not be working somewhere, and you have to figure out if it's a strategy, people, or execution problem. And it completely shifts. I would not say day to day, but month to month, it shifts tremendously.
Did you, at what point?
But one thing never leaves is the macro situation,
yes.
Right? I always tell people, if there's one thing you can be sure is Brazil will be volatile. Know that and use it in your favor, right? Whenever it seems that Brazil will become Korea, it will not. Whenever it seems that Brazil will go the old Argentina, it will not. So just use it in your favor.
At what point in your career with BTG did you think you might ascend to the CEO position? Was that ever?
Never.
How did it happen?
You probably don't know the story, but it was not a planned or smooth transition. It was
you want to tell the story?
But we had a reputational crisis. Our former CEO had to step down, and my partners asked me to step up as CEO. So I had exactly 2 hours to prepare for the transition. It actually took me around 3 years to get comfortable with the job and the title, but I'm honored that my partners gave me that responsibility, have not fired me still, so I think I'm doing an okay job. But sincerely, I never thought, because the truth is, we're a partnership, old-style partnership, right? Even though we're publicly listed, we trade at 2.6 book value. Partners come in and leave at book value. So people can come in and leave and go, and they get the compounded ROE, and it's the old model that ended when all the US banks went public. We kept it at the partnership. So we have a partnership, a holdco that has a stake in the bank. So the truth is, we take all decisions collectively. If it's a partnership where, the same thing Marcos said, we're a high-performance team with great players. But every once in a while, we have to shift the players. And the partnership does that, and it does really well. And the truth is, I have the CEO title, but it's just, I use it institutionally to represent the bank. I use it twice a year when we can't reach a conclusion together or a consensus together, and I have to arbitrate. But other than that, we're taking collective decisions, and I think that's what really makes us strong.
Yeah, love that. What is the one thing that the U.S. economy could learn from Brazil?
Wow. I have to say that, unfortunately, I missed the full presentation about the zoning. To my surprise, I think sometimes the US is more bureaucratic than Brazil, right? Doing construction in our New York office is a nightmare. It's a nightmare. And what else? It's hard, right? The US is what we are, what we aspire to be. So.
I understand that. It's funny because, you know, when you lead a school like Wharton, which is perennially deemed to be among the best business schools in the world, and the thing as a leader I'm most concerned about is complacency and just getting comfortable with that. And I oftentimes think that when you pay attention to either the younger schools or the less well-resourced schools, you can learn a lot because they are required to be innovative in ways that other places are not. And so that's
now that you mention that, something that, if I tell you what we spent to build Intelli, it's what you guys spent to build a hall. So in that sense, I think in some senses we bootstrap more, we're more creative, just because of lack of resources. And sometimes I think the US has been so successful that maybe this complacency sets in.
Yeah. All right, final question. This is a somewhat personal one. What is a talent?
Hot seat.
Not too bad. What is a talent that you admire in other people that you would like to develop in yourself?
Oh, there's so many.
Beach tennis.
Huh?
Beach tennis.
Beach tennis, no. I'll step back. Surfing, yes, not beach tennis. But look, I think, you know, when there are many people that you meet and they see something that after they say it is so obvious that you're kicking yourself why you didn't see that. This is why I really like our partnership model and to be surrounded by great people. And to have an environment where people are free to speak their minds. And we always say that it's the dictatorship of the argument. The best argument will win no matter who brought it, no matter the rank of who brought it. And I think this helps because what I see, especially with the younger generation, is that they see things in a different way, which after they say it is, of course, that's obvious. But sometimes I have that difficult to see. So this is something, and plus a ton of others, but this is something that's been really killing me lately.
Final question for me, which is sort of an easy one perhaps. The one place in the world where you haven't visited that you would like to go?
The one place in the world that I travel a lot, so I can't complain. I would probably say Korea.
South or north?
South.
You want to come up here and do this?
Watch out, he will come.
He will?
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we're done here. Thank you very much, Roberto.
Thank you.